Great. Thank you, Bill. So I'd like to call to order this Thursday, February 5th, 2026 meeting of the Norwalk Shellfish Commission. And has attendance been taken, and the chair does note a quorum's present?
It has, yes.
Thank you so much, Bill. And approval of the minutes from the January meeting, sirs.
So moved.
Second,
Thank you.
Pete Johnson.
Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Public comment. I see one attendee and no public comment. That's actually Jeff, Bill.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yep. So let's move on to the treasurer's report there. Bill, please, sir.
Sure. So the balance remains unchanged. It still is at 26,650. I'm going to kind of go into the permit section now because I went in and I picked up the old permits from last year, and in so doing, I got two checks amounting to $3,903. I brought them over to the comptroller's office yesterday, so they should show up on the expenditure report for next month. But other than that, that's it.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks for that, Bill.
Yep.
The secretary's report, there are a few items. So first, last month I mentioned that I would send an email to Her Honor, and I did so. And she gave me a very rapid and very kind reply with respect to the reinvigoration of the Mayor's Water Quality Committee. So she said that she hasn't made a decision yet, and she did talk to former Mayor Rilling in this regard. And when she does make a decision, she would let me know. So thanks, Your Honor, for your consideration, and we await your decision on that. Also here, in terms of Secretary's report, in their January meeting, the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission moved to draft a letter in support of reinstating Dr. John Pinto to the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission. They do have a couple of open spots, and for whatever reason, he was not renewed. So should this commission so decide, I could put together something similar to their carried motion and apply that. Next, in terms of secretary report, Mr. Stedman attended the state gathering of Shellfish Commissions. I gave him permission to speak on my behalf. I know that none of us could attend that meeting back in January. And as a second note, Jeff has offered to be a formal advisor to us. That's a role in the past that I've played back in my early relationship with the commission, and even Pete played for a short time. So Jeff didn't accept the offer for a contract with the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission, but he's offered to help us out on advisory. So any questions or comments with respect to the mayor's letter or a potential letter to Dr. In regard of Dr. Pinto or Mr. Stedman? We would need to move on both of those.
I make a motion to write a letter to the mayor for John Pinto, Dr. Pinto, and Jeff Stedman. I agree on making him an advisory.
Okay, just stepping back, so the letter would be in support of Dr. Pinto.
That's correct.
Okay. So we have a motion. Anyone second?
Second.
Thank you, Mark. Any discussion? No. So let's call that to a vote. We put them together, so let's just vote on them together. If it does go down, we can separate them. So the motion is to send a letter to Her Honor in support of Dr. Pinto's reappointment to the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission and appointing Jeff Stedman as advisory for the Norwalk Shellfish Commission. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So I hear three. I hear four. So both of those points carry, and I'll get the communication out I note that Mr. Stedman is in the attendees list. Bill, if you could promote him, I assume he may have something to say even during advisory tonight, especially with respect to the Shellfish meeting. Moving on to the committee reports. Department of Health. Again, Bill. Bill, you're muted. Still muted, Bill.
Sorry about that. I was just typing Jeff's name and I was having trouble in switching over to panelists, but I renamed him, so at least that shows up. Apologize for that.
Sorry for the multitasking.
Sorry. For the health report, so there were no closures due to rainfall. Rainfall was only 0.95 inches. Last year was 0.64, so both low, but not as low as last year. Historically, it's 3.27 for the month of January. There was one bypass which occurred on the 15th due to a power loss to a piece of equipment at the plant. There was approximately loss of 100 gallons, but that was it. It was remedied less than a half hour. But other than that, I have nothing else.
Great. Thanks so much, Bill. Wastewater treatment plant, there's no report, but Bill is just taking care of that bypass info for us. Mayor's Water Quality Committee, again, we await her honor's decision in terms of the way that goes. Bill, you already mentioned permits. Anything else to add to it?
No, that's it for now, Steve.
Okay, so FYI, we also did make an overture Bill made an overture on our behalf to the vendor over on Winfield Street. And to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, we have not yet received a reply.
That is correct. He did have a sign up when I went out there. It was a little while ago now. I guess it was over a month, maybe a month and a half. So it's closed for the season. So I'm not quite sure what his close for the season is. But I'll reach out to him again in a little bit, and we'll keep doing it until he opens up. And I'll keep you posted when that happens.
That sounds great. Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Police, the Norwalk Police Marine Unit, and Sergeant Bisegli, please, sir.
Hey guys, nothing going on our end other than a whole lot of ice in the harbor. I heard you guys talking about it before. We were pretty frozen the other day, and the Bloom brothers have been really taking the head on breaking everything up to keep the channel clear and open. So that's been good. Water temp is like 32 right now, 33, so pretty chilly.
Yeah, it is. Thank you, Sergeant. Moving on to advisory. I see Jeff is in there as a participant. Bill, if you could promote, like, it looks like he's in there twice, one of those, just to see if we can get some audio from him.
Oh, hi, Steve. And it's Jeff. Can you hear me?
We copy. Go ahead, Jeff, please.
Okay. I was trying to get into the webinar, but I got out of that. But thank you. If you don't, there were many interesting things that were brought up at that gathering of Shellfish Commissions in New Haven. If you maybe give me a few minutes and cut me off if I go on too long. It was January 24th. And we did bring some of the presentation boards that we prepared in the past about shellfishing in Norwalk. There was the reproduction of the interpretive panel that's down at Vets Park, and also we put together some images from the WPA murals in the City Hall. And those along with from other towns were put up around the meeting room, and I think people enjoyed them. This, as you know, is a meeting that's put together by Yukon Sea Grant, and the Bureau of Aquaculture, of course, participates. And there were a number of presentations that were pretty good. There was the basic discussion about how the shellfish growing area classifications are determined, but there was also mention about the new training protocols for people who take water quality samples. And the Bureau of Aquaculture is establishing a standardized training program for people who do take the samples, and they're going to ask that those samplers participate in this program once a year. There was a very good presentation by Dr. Bylene, if I pronounce her name correctly, from the Bureau of Aquaculture. She's the shellfish pathologist in Connecticut. And she talked about the distinction that can be made between non-native and invasive species of shellfish, and that the non-native species are not necessarily a problem. However, they could be if they outcompete, the native species, or they carry disease, or they're indicative of a disturbed ecosystem. And she said that there's a non-native species called the European flat oyster that was identified or found in West Haven and Stonington this year for the first time. So they're keeping an eye on that, what that means. But the distinction, the non-native species is not necessarily a problem, was I thought, applies to not just shellfish, but other natural creatures. But there was also, they talked about an economic value study that's ongoing or just started by UConn. And they're looking at the economic value of recreational shellfishing. And there are 14 towns that allow recreational harvest in the state. And so they're doing an economic analysis, not just of the permit fees that are collected, but of the secondary economic impacts of having recreational shellfishing open in a community. There was a discussion about eelgrass restoration, which is quite interesting. I guess there are several state laws, I don't have them in front of me, that have been passed to encourage this. And you know that the Niantic River is known as the scallop estuary, interestingly, and in large part historically because of the presence of eelgrass there. So that's another interesting study they talked about. And with respect to emerging issues, there was a discussion about the northern quahog, hardshell clam, and its apparent decline in Connecticut, that it's not reproducing as it once did. So there's consideration being given as to why that is. There was also discussion about enforcement authority, and the enforcement authority, of course, of certified law enforcement officers and shellfish wardens who are not certified law enforcement officers. And some towns expressed some concern about how, when they just have a shellfish warden and the police department isn't responsive, what do they do? The shell recycling program, that's pretty interesting. It's called the Collective Oyster Recycling and Restoration Program. And so since 2023, they've recovered and recycled almost 1 million pounds of shell now. And there's 21 towns that are involved in this and 50 restaurants. Dick Harris, who you know, also gave a very interesting presentation of his analysis of 10 golf courses with respect to pesticides that may be used at the golf courses and get into the streams. So these 10 courses, and I won't list them all, the rivers or streams run through them. And so it's, sort of a simple to think about it. You test the water upstream before it enters the course, and then after it leaves the golf course. And they were found of the 10 courses they tested, there were 4 that definitely introduced the pesticides into the stream course. And then there was a discussion about the PFAS forever chemicals that was interesting. But do you mind if I just talk a little bit more, Steve, or do you want me? There was the other part of this, of the meeting, was when they call it like a roundtable discussion, when all the people in the room, people from individual towns will talk, and then there'll be a discussion. It was quite good, and I mentioned that members of the Norwalk Shellfish Commission, because of the various reasons, were not able to attend. But that certainly doesn't indicate, how important they take their responsibilities. And there was an interesting discussion that developed about the current pressures for waterfront redevelopment and what that means for traditional water-dependent uses, and especially because of what seems to be the priority given in the state to facilitate redevelopment of the waterfront. And there was talk about the governor's recent executive order to streamline the permit process of all the state agencies. and also the new public hearing process, which I mentioned, which is very interesting. And we learned about that with the issue in East Norwalk, with the East Norwalk Boat Club petitioned for a public hearing on the Seaview Avenue project, and they were denied because of this new law. But mention that a little bit about what's going on in Greenwich with that. So there was discussion about the redevelopment, the pressure of redevelopment, and then what happens when a project is reviewed by the DEEP and found that it's inconsistent with the Coastal Management Act because it's introducing more residential development in the known flood hazard areas. What happens when that takes place, but the municipality approves it anyway, over the DEEP's objection, which we know happened with the property on Water Street. There's no remedy for that unless DEEP was to challenge or appeal the decision in court. And it's pretty known by everybody that there's not the political interest in doing that. So then you get into the situation of what good is the coastal management program if it can't be enforced? And when something is determined to be inconsistent with state law, but there's no remedy and it's approved anyway. It was a nice, interesting discussion about that. Just go on for a little bit. Discussion regarding Stratford and the Housatonic River and the need to pay attention to the remediation of the Army engine plant because the Housatonic River is designated as a natural shellfish bed. And then that raised the issue of Manresa Island in Norwalk Harbor, which needs to be environmentally remediated, and it's surrounded by natural shellfish beds. So it's the same sort of issue and the need for being able to look at the proposed project and monitor it and to make sure it doesn't adversely affect the natural beds. In Stamford, which we know, the Harbor Commission is also the Shellfish Commission. So there was an interesting discussion about the things that the Harbor Commission now is doing to update or add to the harbor management plan more specific policies and recommendations having to do with protection of shellfish resources. And the Bureau of Aquaculture is working with the Stamford Commission, and that will constitute Stamford's shellfish management plan, which the Shellfish Commissions, of course, are authorized to do. And it will have more weight because it will be incorporated into the harbor management plan. Stamford is also leasing an area for a commercial harvest, and they did that for the past 5 years. The lease expired, and now they've put out requests for proposals for renewing that, and that's a source of funds that go into the harbor management account and are used for purposes of improving the harbor for the public. So that was interesting. But perhaps one of the most interesting things that came about, and we talked about it, and the Greenwich representatives talked about it, and this brings up, again, this new public hearing process where a public hearing on a DEEP application is not automatically held, an evidentiary hearing with 25 signatures. Now, at least one of the signers has to demonstrate that they have a right or a duty that would be affected by the DEEP decision. And so knowing what took place in Norwalk, shared that experience, of course, in Greenwich, there's a controversial project involving a placing of the dock on a natural shellfish bed in an area that's never been disturbed before. So both the Harbor Commission members and Shellfish Commission members signed the petition and for the public hearing and argued that they have a right or an interest that would be affected by the DEEP's decision because they have a right to review proposals and make recommendations, and what happens here could affect future recommendations. And of course, the attorney for the applicant contested that and said that they don't have a legal right that would be affected. And in fact, Shellfish Commissions don't have a statutory right to make recommendations on applications. And we discussed that with the Bureau of Aquaculture, and that's an illogical, in my opinion, and other Bureau of Aquaculture's opinion, an illogical assertion, because the Shellfish Commissions have authority to prepare shellfish management plans, and of course a plan logically contains recommendations, and Shellfish Commissions have authority to they have charge, is the statutory language, over shellfish fisheries. And therefore, if someone makes a proposal that could affect the resource they have charge over, they could logically make a recommendation against that. It was very interesting, but the petition was denied on a technicality. It was not, which was not the town's fault. It was actually DEEP gave us the wrong deadline to submit it. So they didn't get into the argument that the applicant's attorney made. DEEP then agreed, several people, to meet with the Harbor Commission and the Shellfish Commission in Greenwich to talk about these issues. And one thing that came out of it was DEEP's assertion, not assertion, the understanding and confirmation that a littoral right of access is a right of reasonable access. And how that's obtained differs depending on what site is involved. So when someone says we have a right to build a dock, for whatever size boat, that is not DEEP's policy now. And so as a result of this, we're also making an addendum to the Greenwich Harbor Management Plan in concert with the Shellfish Commission and the Bureau of Aquaculture to make more stricter requirements to protect natural shellfish beds. And I think that's going to be something that, again, working with the Bureau of Aquaculture, the results of that could be something that would be beneficial in Norwalk too. And then the other two things I'll just mention is the Norwalk River Watershed Initiative meeting to update the watershed-based plan. That was held on December, and of course the Watershed Initiative was established back in the late 1990s because of the value, in large part, of shellfish resources in Norwalk and the effect that upstream bacteria could have on those resources. So there was a public meeting to discuss the update to the plan on December 17th, and it was attended by 7 people, including the consultant. And compare that to back in 97 and 98, where there were many, many people that attended the meetings. So I don't yet know when comments have to be made on the draft update. But we did talk about, and we talked about at this meeting, and I'll stop in just a minute, the two very important studies that both the Shellfish Commission and Harbor Commissions sponsored, if that's the right word, in Norwalk, with the I-95 bridge project to show that the relationship between highway pollutants and contamination in the marine sediments, and also the statistical analysis relating the upstream sampling results with the shellfish testing, water quality testing results in the harbor. And then we talked about, with respect to policy recommendations that might be considered in addition to what the consultant has already done, is to have make a statement that says that goals for development in the watershed don't supersede or replace or diminish environmental protection goals. Another policy is that highway improvements result in no direct discharge into watercourses, including the Norwalk River, and any increased runoff from impervious surfaces, increased impervious surfaces, is properly mitigated. And then another policy might be to include what's meant by resiliency. It's not intended to be an effort to put more development in at-risk areas, but to accelerate recovery and reduce vulnerability. So anyway, those are the things that I thought would be of interest to you. And then also the proposed amendment to the harbor management legislation. This legislative session is underway, and we're working with the Connecticut Port Authority now to hopefully get support for the necessary amendment to uphold municipal harbor management authority, which of course can serve to achieve Shellfish Commission goals as well. But thank you very much for letting me go on, Steve. Sorry to take so much time, but those were my comments.
Not at all, Jeff. Thank you very much for being the meat and potatoes of our news every month. Greatly appreciated, sir. Norwalk Harbor Management Commission. I did see Chairman Kibbe here, and now I don't see him in the list of attendees. Alan, do you copy?
Yeah, he was here originally.
Yeah. Maybe you had to drop off. Oh, Alan, going once, going twice. Okay, so I would love to entertain a motion to accept the committee reports as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Thanks, Pete. And a second?
Second.
Thanks, John. And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So no old business, though it won't change our batting order tonight because I did introduce last month the Shellfish Restoration Project being done by the folks at the Maritime Aquarium in conjunction with Norman Bloom at Cops Island Oysters. So in new business, since we did receive their information first, let's go ahead with the Maritime Aquarium people. I guess, Grace, you will lead your discussion as you did for Harbor, and I see that Dr. Dominic and Dr. Sarah are with us too. So thanks everyone for coming tonight, and looking forward to you sharing your presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. And it's pretty much what you saw recently with the Harbor Management Commission, but I wanted to share this information with you guys as well. I especially know that this has been an interest in the community of doing a sort of shellfish restoration. So we're very happy to be launching it. So I'll share my screen and we can get started. So we are going to be running a shoreline restoration pilot project. As Steve said, we are running it as the Maritime Aquarium Conservation Department, and we're doing it in heavy partnership with Norm Bloom and Cops Island Oysters. So just as an introduction, my name is Grace. I'm an associate project manager in the conservation department. And then I am here tonight with my supervisors, Dr. Sarah Crosby and Dr. Dominic Romanello, the vice president and associate director of that department. And we've kind of been launching together this partnership in this project. So it's a fairly simple project where we are hoping to establish a small nursery for young oysters at Vets Park, directly off the southern shoreline of Vets Park, using shellfish aquaculture techniques. So using yearly planting, growing, harvesting techniques. And from the get-go, we are going to involve local students in this project, and we're going to welcome them into those shellfish aquaculture days, those servicing days, and introduce them to aquaculture techniques and also the scientific aspect of it, where we'll be conducting some data management and data collection. And that data is going to quantify the impact of shoreline habitat, of like an eroded, degraded shoreline like Vets Park, or a more intact shoreline like a calf pasture or Long Beach, the impact of that habitat on oyster growth and survival. And in turn, we also want to see, does that oyster growth, does that aquaculture have an impact on shoreline habitat? Can we give Vets Park a little bit of a boost, a little bit of a bolster in that shoreline protection in advance of the city's restoration at Vets Park? So our proposed project areas are off of Vets Park, off of that southern shoreline, which you can see. And we are also going to have comparison or control areas right off of Calf Pasture and then off of Long Beach. So we will be growing these oysters each year at Vets Park, Long Beach, Calf Pasture. And then at the end of the year, before ice risk, we'll be moving it to this deeper area off of Long Beach. So as I mentioned, the potential annual process. So this may repeat every year, but we're going to start with this year and see how it goes. In late spring, those small oyster beds are going to be established south of Vets Park at the control areas in Long Beach, Coast Guard area, near the Coast Guard house at Calf Pasture. And we're going to be using seed and shell from Cops Island Oysters. We're also going to be learning from Norm how to do this, how he installs shell and how he plants and harvests. We're going to collect data on the adjacent shoreline and its environmental characteristics, as well as oyster condition, age, size, that kind of fun stuff. In the fall, those planted oysters are going to be hand raked because we're starting with very small beds, hand raked with us and with students, and they're going to be transplanted to that deeper water at Long Beach, and that's going to be before ice or consumption risk. And then the ultimate goal is that those oysters will mature into spawners, which will support the surrounding natural beds in the harbor. So specifically, this data collection is going to involve water quality. We're anticipating that we're gonna collect data on the temperature, salinity, dissolved oxygen in the water, but also turbidity, like clarity, and the pH of the water as well. We also want to understand wind speed and fetch, so we can get kind of an idea of currents and how that can affect our oysters. We are also going to be collecting data on the shoreline extent and erosion rate. This is especially important for our Vets Park data to see if our oyster beds are having any sort of positive impact or any impact on the nature of that shoreline there. And then finally, we're going to collect our oyster condition data, so the dimensions of our beds, if our settlement, if our set was successful, if those oysters are surviving, if they're spawning, and the size that we can get. But of course, we're moving them farther offshore to avoid any harvesting risk or recreational harvesting risk. So a big part of this project, as I mentioned, is the student engagement portion of this. And we have been in conversation with local schools, specifically Brian McMahon School, and they have a really great program, the Marine Science Academy, and it's a 4-year program where they welcome students into specific marine science classes, and they're very experiential, which is great. And we work heavily with them already, but we've identified some classes that are very enthusiastic to maybe join this project and would be a really strong fit. So we're having those conversations to see if we can get them out. And we're going to converse with Norm, see if we can all come together and learn some aquaculture techniques together and introduce those students to this project. So the general next steps in this project is to incorporate feedback from you guys from the Shellfish Commission, and hopefully establish a partnership, because as I mentioned, I know that this has been an interest of the commissions, and we're hoping to kind of formalize that partnership and utilize any guidance that you may have and welcome you into the project and into the next process. We also are incorporating feedback from the Harbor Management Commission, the meeting that we attended a little while ago recently, and we had some great questions and comments from those folks that we're incorporating. We're going to continue communication with the Department of Agriculture, the Bureau of Aquaculture. We met up with those folks and they're very interested in the project, and we're going to continue to have that communication and test our oysters with them and learn what they have. And as I mentioned, we're going to recruit students for the project, so finalize that Brian McMahon School, that program, and hopefully actually begin our work in April. So it's a fairly soon, fairly tight timeline, which is great. So that's a general overview of our project. I want to say thank you guys for taking the time to listen. I'm happy to answer any questions or any comments. And if you need, you can contact me at the email or the phone that's listed on the slide.
Thanks so much, Grace. Great presentation. I really appreciate it. And I just can't think of a more worthy project, especially because it's involving Norwalk students and showing them the value of the conservation that you guys are charged with. So one technical question for me. I saw on the map how you had the growing areas shown. So that green area that at Vets Park shows basically the entire southern terminus of the park. Is that planned for year one, or is that where it will end up ultimately? Just trying to get an idea of the bed dimensions for the first year.
That's a really great question. So these areas on the map are just like general zones that we will operate in. So we're hoping to kind of use Norm's advice on where exactly we should put the beds within those zones. But we don't anticipate the beds being larger than like 20 feet. So it definitely won't fill up the whole of these polygons on the map. But that will be the kind of area that we operate in and choose our beds from.
So you're saying 20 feet waterward from mean low water?
So it will be accessible by foot. We don't, I would can't exactly estimate how far off landward we will be, but the dimensions of the bed would probably be about like 20 by 10 feet, like a rectangle.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we're starting pretty small.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah.
Questions, comments from the commission? Pete, you're muted.
Not with Norman, they'll be bigger than that.
He's very excited. Yeah, we'll see. We're trying to keep it open for flexibility, but yeah.
If you need anything from us, just give us a yell.
That's very kind. Thank you, Pete.
You're welcome.
Steve,
So-
it's Jeff. Might I
Of
make
course.
a comment?
Yes, please, sir.
I forgot to mention with respect to the watershed initiative, one of the new policies that was discussed was to involve students more in the work of the watershed, protecting the watershed. And that goes, for involvement of students in more than just watershed planning. And just interestingly, this afternoon I was in the Dunkin' Donuts in New Canaan, where I sometimes go because there's several guys who work there who are students at Brian McMahon, where I went to high school. And just so happens this afternoon there was a young woman who had a jacket that said McMahon cheerleading on it, and we were all talking. And she started talking about the McMahon program of global marine biology and ecology, which I thought sounded very interesting. And you know who started that program back in 1970 or 71 was our friend Joe Schneerlein. So it all comes together, but the involvement of the students at the high school is something that is not just McMahon, but Norwalk is high as well, with regard to managing matters of environmental conservation and marine biology and ecology. I think that's just a really positive development to get them involved, including in this oyster shellfish restoration project. So anyway, thanks. It's just a coincidence, Steve, from my conversation this afternoon.
I'm a Joe Schneerlein alumnus as well. So, well, I know you're not, but you're a McMahon alumnus anyway. So how can we help you in the immediate, Grace?
Yeah. So nuts and bolts is that we are trying to get documentation into the state, so the Bureau of Aquaculture. And as part of that documentation, they recommended that we list a public authority, like a local town commission, a Shellfish Commission, as a partner on the project. So with your permission, I'd love to just list down the Shellfish Commission as a partner on the project. And it is more like we can reach out to you if for your involvement, and your involvement is definitely welcome. But you guys don't have to be going out and collecting water quality with us unless you want to. But
I'm sure we'd love to go watch some of it, especially when the kids are going to do the raking. I'm not volunteering for the raking, but I'll watch.
That would be great. We'd be happy to do it. So that's the immediate request. And then another thing that we'll probably reach out for is just a formal letter of approval, just an endorsement of the project, that you guys are aware that it's happening and are okay with it.
Thank you, ma'am. So Grace is asking for this formal letter and for us to be listed as a partner in the project. I'd love to entertain a motion accepting both of those such that we can move forward, as a junior partner with.
So moved on both fronts. I love it.
So do I, John.
Pete
Thank
Johnson, second.
Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
This would be disqualifying if you were not in favor of this. So this is This is the best thing that's come across our plate in a long time. So thanks, and call me anytime, Grace, and we'll get this out to you.
You got it, Steve. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. And thanks, colleagues, for attending.
Thank
Just
you
say
so
hi to
much. This is
Sarah.
really excited. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Good luck. Next on our agenda and last for our agenda is 20 Wharf Road on Pine Point in Rowayton. And I see that Tom is still with us.
I am.
Hey, Tom, you want to fire it up and take it from here, sir?
Sure, thank you. I'm gonna okay. I'm sharing. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't hit the button to share. There we go. We have a project for the owners at 20, what's called 20 Old Wharf, and it's called 20 Wharf. It depends. I think the official name is 20 Wharf, but doesn't matter. It's right in this area here, and the project is to continue the riprap along the shoreline here. The wall is all protected with riprap, except for this last little bit here. This property over here has received a lot of erosion recently. They had just increased their knee wall over there. They just repaired it all. And we have an application into the DEP to put a little bit more riprap in the last 30 feet. It's the only portion of the wall that's not protected. And the reason it's important is there's a whole bunch of geothermal wells in this area and all through here. And, failure to the wall is, catastrophic to the property. And the DEP is ready to issue a permit for this little bit of a riprap. We're going to be putting it in by barge. The DEP actually recommended to us that as an option that we'd be able to stay there for a day or two, considering there's no shellfish in the area. So we made a revised plan in here to show the barge, and with a little note in here that says, it could remain for up to 3 days. The contractor is not planning on doing that. He's probably going in, high tide, coming back out. But if he does, happen to get stuck or there's an issue, there will be a permit in there. So what they did was they reached out to a Bureau of Aquaculture and asked for their opinion. And Mr. Carey came back saying, we don't have any issues with it. This is all sand. They said there's no shellfish in this area, and they didn't really have a concern with it. I sent that email off with my original request. And so now they're asking for input from your commission. And that's the reason why I only asked 2 days ago, is this all kind of came up on Monday. And they said, we'd like some comment. And I said, great. And so thank you much for accommodating me and being able to present this tonight. So really the only question we have then is, do you have any comments with a barge being able to come in and rest on the sand, at low tide, while they continue to do their placement of boulders, and then back their way out. And as I mentioned earlier, the contractor is not planning on actually resting there, but if they do happen to rest there, the permit condition would be in place. That's it.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So I see that the inside of the elbow, if you will, that little crook is sandy beach. And I did read Dave Carey's commentary. How does he know that farther out, when it's certainly farther out than that beach, that sand continues? I mean, I know, or I don't know. I guess there hasn't been a macroinvertebrate report or any survey work done there. So
well, I don't think he implied that. I read it as that once you get to Mila water, this drops off quite a bit, and that there wouldn't be any impact on any resources if they were there. And the only ones that would be impacted would be up here on the beach, which there is visibly no shellfish. But back here is the Mila water line. I'm sorry, is right here. So all of this would all this would still have water, and the areas exposed would be sand, and the area that would be water would be deep enough that the 2-foot draft would not impact. I think that was his point.
So we're saying that even when loaded with the riprap, that the barge will only rest on sand here in the what looks like, and I don't know the overall. Yeah, it is the southern portion here, actually the one that's sort of facing to the west.
Is this the area you're referring to?
No, sir. The part that faces the land, essentially. So that part will be sitting on sand, and the remaining of the barge going out to deep water will be floating, or will the entire thing? So I just don't know if we're really talking about sand all the way out there, and it's our repeated policy, and I know it's associated with the harbor management plan as well, not to let vessels, including barges, sit through the high tide cycle on a natural bed. So I don't know for sure if this is a natural bed or not, especially the deeper parts, if you will.
It is characterized as a natural bed, but you are right. I did not do any benthic studies out in this area here to know what the substrate contains. That is correct.
So how could we do that quickly, Tom, to figure that out?
Let me see if I can help you here. That really doesn't provide you with any information that you would need. This is, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little closer to my monitor here, so if you see me looking, that's minus 4.5, minus 4.2. The mean low water is at 3.7. So I really wouldn't be able to give you that information in the amount of time that the DEP has in order to. I mean, just honestly, as a scientist or whatever, I wouldn't be able to provide that information within the time frame of which the DEP has in order to make a decision on this.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be really cautious on giving approval to something that where it's not sitting on essentially an abiotic environment. I mean, if that was sandy beach, it's one thing. If that's natural shellfish bed, I mean, the commission can decide. But I mean, my personal opinion would be not to allow that. Do you know what the conditions are down there now? Is that like frozen over in that area?
I was just there a couple days ago, and it's not frozen yet.
It's not frozen.
To give a little bit more information, is what I've been able to do is I did go through a number of aerials. You can look at Google Earth at different times and other aerials at different times, and typically I can tell with a discoloration of something if there is something. Here I was not able to tell. I was not able to see anything indicating shellfish beds. So again, I really don't have any information.
I mean, tomorrow there's a pretty low tide. I don't know what, 0.9 or minus 0.9 or something like that.
Yeah.
You could actually shoot over there and do a scoop and just see if you're getting sand when you're 3 feet deep. I mean, that would give us at least some information.
No, that's valid. So bring my waders out there and just, this was actually taken. Oh, this was taken. I have similar photos that were taken recently. But yeah, I could go out there, I guess, with waders and take a scoop. And I mean, I've tackled shellfish beds numerous times. I can tell the difference. So.
Yeah, and I don't know from the height of that wall, Tom, or maybe even from the house, the clarity of the water and the angle of the sun, you might be able to see the bottom. That's why I asked if it was
true. It's super clear right now, the water.
Yeah.
All the diatoms are out of there. Right, exactly. Let me see if I can. No, I took some recent photographs, but they were from a different angle, and they wouldn't be able to help you that much.
The other thing that gets me, I got one thing. That barge, you're saying the water drops off quick there. That guy don't want to set that barge on there if it's going to be laying at an angle.
There's no angle. I'm sorry.
You said the water drops off, the sand drops off.
Oh, well, it's a okay.
It's not a slow slope.
Right. It is. let me go back to. It is not a big drop off in that regard. There was, what I was trying to get at was there was enough of a draft to keep the, that portion of the barge off the base, off the substrate is what I was getting at. There's
You know
not,
what the
it's not
draft
like
is
a,
on that barge?
what's that?
You know what the draft is on the barge with all the stone and the crane?
Yep, it was 2 feet. It's Stan out of Coastal Consulting, and he told me it was 2 feet with when loaded.
Okay, so I mean, go ahead, John.
Nothing for me.
Yeah, I mean, in my humble opinion, I think we should get some idea of the gradient there in terms of the bottom conditions from the most landward to the most waterward part.
This is something as a coastal guy, I do this a lot. This was something that I probably would have gotten earlier if, we didn't get this request from DEP on Tuesday.
Yeah,
To do that.
I understand. No worries, Tom, and we're happy.
I feel I always should come prepared in these meetings.
Yeah,
Here's a
you
question
do.
that I don't have an answer for.
No worries, and you've been always quite helpful. And I just don't think that we have enough to go on now for an approval. I mean, we could say no, but I mean, if it's an abiotic environment, the commission might say yes. So I just think we don't know enough to make a decision as to whether or not this is a potential growing area. I mean, certainly it qualifies as a natural bed just by the map definition, but is it sand? Is it mud? Is it shell? Well, is it cobble? We just don't know. So I think we need to know that before we can make a decision.
Can we make a conditional decision now, and so that the commission doesn't need to be reconvened in order to grant the approval?
Any discussion on that, guys? Pete, you're muted.
I think if we talk to Norman, because he would know all the areas. He knows it like the back of his hand. Him and they, those two know all of this area. If we ask them what it is, and if there's oysters there, they'll tell us. If there's any growth there or anything, or it's a natural bed, or it's a seed area.
Okay, Pete, thanks. We'll charge you with that.
And I'll ask them tomorrow.
And if Tom could come back with some data, and John, I like where you're going with this. It'd just be up to the commission to decide whether a conditional approval or conditional disapproval is the way to go.
Well, that was going to be my request because the DEP has a side on this in the next week or so. And I know you don't meet within that time frame. So I thank Mr. Pagler for recommending that.
I mean, if we were to decide tonight, I think it would be no. And I don't necessarily want to do that based on the limited data set.
I can find out tomorrow, and I'll give you a call, Steve, and you can get hold of him.
Okay. So I think to John's point, though, that this should be put in the form of a motion. Commissioner Pagler, would you restate?
I move to allow for this approval.
Yeah, why?
I have
Pete,
multiple
you
people
need to
talking.
mute.
Mom's car.
Pete, you need to mute. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I make a motion to accept the proposal as stated by Mr. Ryder, conditional on the fact that we get some view from either Norm or from Tom doing a survey himself that indicates that it is not a seed bed or there are oysters there, that it is in fact sand.
Well stated, sir. Thank you. A second?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Thank you, Mark. Any discussion?
I can send you photographs.
Go ahead,
by
Tom.
email.
Go ahead, Tom.
How do you buy those?
Go ahead, Tom.
I was gonna say, I can send you my photographs by email on the same way that we sent this request originally, if that would be suitable for you.
Sounds good, sir. Any further discussion?
Oh.
Okay, all in favor with the motion that's on the floor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Hearing none, I will go with that. So Yeah, if you could get that to us whenever you can, we can act on it
Will
very
do.
quickly and accordingly.
Great. Thank you for your careful discussion on this, as always.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you so much, sir. That brings us to the end of our agenda, other than any discussion. Any comments, questions, things to discuss before adjournment? Okay, thanks, Commission. And we'll see you guys all in March. Stay warm. Pete says a little bit of
Sure.
it's certainly going to get cold and very windy this weekend.
Yep.
So watch the Olympics and the Super Bowl if you're into those kinds of things.
Yep.
And maybe stop by Norm's and bring some shellfish home for your party.
Yeah,
So a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
Second.
Thanks, John. And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you guys so much.
Have a
And
good night, guys.
yep, have a good night.
You
Catch you all
guys too. Bye.
Hey, everybody.
Take care.